Hello everyone, good evening. Shriram joining here. Thanks all for joining on a Sunday evening. Good to see you. Let's kickstart. Hey, this is Shriram here. Hope I'm audible to you. Can I get a couple of messages here if you are able to hear and see me? Well, good. Thank you. Yep. Right. How about others? Is everybody hearing me? I can see a few more in the chat. Are you able to hear me? Could see me? Can I get a message from you? If you're comfortable, let's start. Okay, well, good. So let's talk about Agile today. So today we have a topic on ACP, Agile Certified Practitioner. That's a course we're going to talk today. Under this umbrella, we'll talk about Agile and its planning model. In fact, we have spoken about ACP in some more sessions where you would have witnessed it, or if not, it's available as a YouTube version where you can see that. Today, we're going to talk about agile planning. Before I move furthermore, I just want to get an idea. Have you worked on agile projects? Anybody here who worked on agile projects? At least have some flavor of, hey, I know what is agile. If you have that, well and good. If you don't have that, some of the concepts which we discussed may be pretty new to us. So what I'll try to do as a lightweight subject today, where you can understand how this agile planning works. Okay, I hope most of you are able to see the screen here. I have made it as a whiteboard where you can talk some factors about agile. In Agile, we know that there is something called Four Manifesto and 12 principles are there, which came by 2001, which has been primarily adopted for Agile model. Under the Agile umbrella, we have few more methodologies like a SCRUM, Kanban, XP, Crystal, TDD, and few more are there. But primarily used will be SCRUM in the industry. And the stat says that around 58% of the organizations utilize Scrum. So Scrum has been highly adopted because it is pretty easy to use and it's also front runner, which started early. Now, whether you go with a Scrum or you go with other model, in Agile, the planning is slightly different. When I say slightly different, instead of doing a planning as a whole, we will do planning as a chunk, a small piece of planning at a regular interval. Now that's going to help us to understand how we can deliver faster. So that's a message. So when you look at the board here, so we have a customer who is looking for an output. Customers of course look for an output. The output can be one single output, which we can give at the end of the whole cycle of the project. Let's say whole cycle can be 6 months. 6 months. At the duration of a 6 months, something we're going to deliver as a whole can be that way, or we can give chunk of deliverables frequently, right? We can give chunk of delivers frequently. Now, in order to deliver as a frequent cycle, we need a small chunk of plan. That could be a plan here, which covers 20% of the work on a whole project, what we have to complete. The next we can go for another 20%, another 10%, another 30%. It goes on in order of a small size of planning and delivering. Now, the first question is why we should do like this. The primary reason why is we have to reach the market as early as possible. That is when the size is smaller, the queue size is smaller, and the carry weightage is smaller, you can reach the market faster comparing to the big size. Because when it's a big size, it's going to have too much of variability, too much of changes and expectations. And if it fails as a whole. Rather, you're going to try a small piece of chunk moving forward, chances are success rate can be higher. So how can success can be higher? The chances are if something goes wrong in this particular one plan and one release, we can recover it faster. So on the next release, we can again crack it out. Now, as a chunk will keep moving out piece by piece, it can go faster. Now, how do you do that? In Scrum, we use something called iterations. So we use iterations to deliver it on a frequency. Let's say you have one more iteration and you keep moving up. One more iteration, you keep moving up. This is a model where you deliver frequently to make it happen successfully. Now, how the customer enjoy benefit out of it? For the customer, they get the piece of work what they want as early as possible, which they can launch to the market and make sure it is accessible. For now, Amazon has made $1 million sale in the last few days. Now, for this, they would come with the package. They would come with the release. Let's imagine Amazon want to do something big for the Christmas time. It could be the big package they have to go. In order to go as a big package, they will start doing plans in a smaller cycle. Could be of every week or every month. There could be new item getting added in an Amazon application. You may not notice it. You will notice only when the day you want to purchase something. If not, it has been a hidden one, which we don't know. It keeps coming to the market. But on the day it comes, it opens up and ready to take orders in billions. It's not easy to run, right? If you have a multiple number of people accessing the application, chances are the application can get slowed down, can be some problem coming out. When you put $1 million sale, there could be huge amount of access going to happen. So how do you sustain that strength? How do you make the sale and order happen systematically? For this, there could be multiple releases happening, which is not visible or visible. And I sometimes quote with Google Meet. Google Meet is a video conferencing software which is coming and competing with Zoom now. Now, Google Meet has a big plan to come end of 2020. But in meantime, every 1 month they start giving small piece of work which can reach the market, which you start using it. As you use it, you will give feedback, and your feedback will be taken as an input and they further upgrade accordingly. So in Agile project, the same piece of work which we're going to do, but in a small chunk we are going to deliver. So benefit here, one, you reduce the risk factor. Also, you reach market faster and early to get benefits. Let's see a few pictures or slide which I have, which can talk about some factors about agility. Let's see why we do this, right? That will give you some idea. Okay, I'm going to share a screen. You have to confirm me. Are you getting the screen? Okay. Are you getting the screen? Are you able to see the screen? Okay, thank you. Thanks for confirming. Thank you. Right. Here is a picture which talks about value proportion or how agile value works out. There are 4 points here. I may not go all the points, but I'll touch base at the high level. The first one, we talk about the visibility. How early we go to the market is what the visibility talks about. In a sense, you come to know if it is a traditional project, it's a waterfall model. By the way, Agile books mostly compare waterfall model to show that why we should not go to waterfall for knowledge or IT-based projects, why we should go with Agile projects. For that reason, they'll always have a comparison. So let's see some of the comparisons and let's learn out of it. Now, if you say visibility, if you watch out the waterfall model or a traditional model, the visibility was high in the beginning, and after the planning and execution, it may start dropping down. The reason being is the team is working here. Then it goes to the testing phase and market. It reaches a market here where the visibility comes up. The model which I explained on the board, where you do every 2 weeks of release, what happens is you are always visible in the front of market. When you say market, you are always available. You will not tell that I'm going to release something and wait 8 months to release a product. Rather, you give small chunk of iterative and incremental deliverable. So visibility is very high. Business value, the business value starts happening from the first timeline of the deliverable. In other project also it's available, but the business value comes at the end. Whereas here, it starts happening in the beginning of the project. And I like most part is risk factor. In traditional project model, the risk is addressed, but at the same time, risk can stay with the project until you go to the market. Whereas here, you start going to the market and get the feedback and make changes accordingly, the risk level starts dropping down. Now, when I say that, let's understand something about adaptability, because today we're going to talk about planning. So let's talk about adaptability. How adaptable we are, how quickly changes can be taken into consideration. Now, the adaptability level starts dropping down in a traditional model of project. What happens in traditional model? In traditional model, initially you have more opportunity to make changes. As you start progressing towards your planning, your execution, the level of flexibility or adaptability starts going down. It is the final release timeline. You can't make any changes. If you make a change, it's going to hit your time, it's going to hit your budget, it's going to bring more risk. The same reason, if you go to agile projects, as they work in a small chunk of work, chances are they can quickly make some changes. Is it obviously visible? When you do a small piece of work, chances are you can make changes faster. At the same time, what all the best thing out of it if you go for a small stuff? And also there could be some difficulty here because you may not be able to plan your architecture or your base at a high level or a little more explanatory level. You have to go at the level of uh, planning for every 2 times or every 2 weeks or every iteration. Some difficulties also there, but still the market says that don't make so big plan where you have a big failure. When you look at this picture here, you can see two pictures here, which talks about one about non-agile project model of planning, other one is agile model of planning. If you watch it here, in non-agile model of project, we spend huge amount of time in planning, a big amount of time in planning. Is it needed? Yes, needed. Even today, some of the predictive nature projects, planning should happen a little more elaborative. Why? Why? Because the requirements are available. When the requirements are available, you can go for a high level or a deep planning. Whereas when you go for non-agile or agile projects, when you go for agile projects, the planning happens frequently. If you watch, there is a planning here. You make execution according to the planning. Again, you go for a second round, other set of planning, then third set of planning. So the planning happens on every frequent time interval. Why we do that? Because our requirements are progressively elaborated. Now, what is progressive elaboration? We may not decide every work what we have to do in upfront in the project. Rather, we take a small piece of work and we do planning for that, and the team will work on the timeline, cost, risk, material for that particular plan. Once this is completed, we'll move to the next step of planning. So it will become a continuous planning work. At the same time, book says that there is a chance in agile projects we may do more planning than non-agile projects, because in non-agile projects we do planning at a whole, at a big size, and then we make some changes on need basis. Whereas in agile projects, you do plan very frequently, more number of times, and also you make some changes as per the need. If that's the case, there is a study, could be agile projects do more planning, but not at one time, one place. You split it, do in a different time interval in different places. So agile and non-agile, when we compare, we cannot tell that non-agile planning is wrong. It is needed for a predictive nature of project. When I know the requirements very upfront clearly, I can go for a long planning and do the work. But when I go for an agile project, it could be a frequent need there based on the market, based on the customer expectation, based on the risk factors, and based on the market demand as well. It all comes together and we make a small chunk of plan happening. So there are some benefits here. The benefits primarily goes to the customer and also team. Don't carry the burden of having a huge plan, which you have to carry all the way. Imagine you made a big plan of a 3 months, you made a plan to do something which can work for next 8 to 10 months. In between, a lot of things can happen like what happened now. We are in a pandemic. Nobody expected it in the beginning of 2020, but it happened. But if you have a big plan, all will be halted. But if you made a small chunk of plan, maybe by the month of March or April, you want to make some plan, you would have slowed down, considering the factors happening around you. If not, you would have made a big plan for which you have invested a lot of money and time, which is so hard to get it back. Now, this all depends on the model of project and domain where we are. If you ask me, is it suitable agile model of planning in construction? Question mark. Because construction needs plan little more deep inside. They have to understand all the levels before even they go for execution. Why? Because they have a lot of dependencies there, a lot of upfront risk factors are there. These all should be addressed. Then only you can go for a planning in that area and execution in that area. So why agile planning works or where it works? It works primarily in information technology or knowledge-based projects where the requirements and expectations going to be fluctuating, right? Okay, that's a little on the planning. Let me go a little more to give some more idea. Okay, you can see a picture here. In this picture, you will see two items here. Primarily, you will get an idea missile is traveling. Yeah, agile projects are like a guided missiles. I believe you should be aware of what is guided missiles. What will happen is there is a missile. Of course, anybody who sees the Discovery or History Geography channel, you would have addressed some warfront related equipments. There is something called guided missiles is there. What do you mean by guided? The moment you set a target and you trigger it, and if the target moves, the missile will also travel along with the target. This is very famous in air fight. They set another metal detector machine to hit another metal, and if the device starts moving, the missile will also travel based on a heat sensor. Now, what happened here is we set a target. Here is our target, actually, initially. We triggered that missile to hit this target. But what happened later, there was a course correction. Now, from this point, the target has moved to another point. If this moves, your missile also takes a diversion towards a target. Now, what's the story here? In agile projects or knowledge-based projects, the target keep changing. So now we can come back and ask, how come, man? We have made a contract to do this. How can they change? So that's a deal in agile projects. We encourage changes. We don't fight with the customer for contract, right? We do customer collaboration over contract negotiation. It's one of the manifesto, right? One of the manifesto says that customer collaboration over contract negotiation. We don't go and fight back on what we signed. Rather, we work out for what best a customer can get. Now, with this guided missile, what happens is we can change the direction. How can you change the direction is only when you have a small plans. If you watch out here, this missile could be one sprint. We made it and we understood we're not reaching the goal. Maybe you course correct yourself one more sprint and one more sprint and one more sprint. So you keep changing the direction as per the need, but totally you cannot change all the way, other direction, opposite side, but minor changes are acceptable. Anything too much also is in trouble. But for understanding, so a guided missile is something helps you to course correct and go towards the target. Now, again, what's the benefit here? Customer is getting benefited because customer has a flexibility of pronouncing their changes. If not, customer cannot win in the market. If you read the 12 principles of Agile, we do this for the competitive advantage of the customer. You can understand there is a word competitive advantage. The competitive advantage is something they want to be in the market. They want to be a upfront winner. How can they be upfront winner? Only when go with a competitive level of in the market. Let's say this Google Meet. Google Meet, they would have some other plan in their mind in the month of May and June, but they keep realizing and analyzing how the market is moving. Based on that, they give their new releases. Based on that, new features getting added. You may be surprised. In 2 to 3 months, they may overtake Zoom with some features which you can't even think about it. Microsoft is trying with Microsoft Teams. Still, they can't catch it up. They're trying with the guided missile. Still, they cannot because Zoom is very clear on their releases. I'm just putting some example of this. Same happens in a shopping cart. Same happens in the car industry. Same happens in the education industry. You keep correcting yourself, and course correction of the plans make you to reach a target a better way. But this is not possible in all the model of projects. For example, there is a rocket launch. Let's say ISRO is going to go and launch a rocket. They have a target timeline. They have a target mission or a vision to achieve. When everything is there, they will not keep changing the course direction there on the plans. The plan is well set. The rocket should be launched by September 10th from Sriharikota, ISRO. It's clear. Maybe date can be pushed plus or minus 5, 6, 10 days, but the mission will be same. The mission will not change. The vision will not change, right? So certain things it can go to agile. Certain things non-agile stays the same way. You cannot touch that. Okay, hope that gives little idea about agile factors. Let me touch some more. Now, how do they implement this changes or how do they do this agile factors? If you have heard about, there is something called iteration or there's something called release planning. Let's talk a little bit on that. There is something called progressive elaboration. The term progressive elaboration goes to the place where we don't have full details, where we have to wait until we get closer. If you watch out here, we have few iterations. What is iteration? It could be 2 or 4 weeks of cycle to complete some piece of work. Let's imagine this is 2 weeks of iteration. This is 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks. This is 2 weeks. We have list of number of weeks to complete. For the first 2 weeks, I may have a full detail. That's why it's all black line. For the next 2 weeks, I have a little more. Maybe I'll add a little later. But now I have this much of information. Here, little less. Here, little less. Here, nothing, 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 nothing. So what it means is I'm not going to plan everything ahead of time. Rather, I may have 20% of my items planned. Rest, I will plan later. I don't want to kill my time planning all the stuff. The reason is the requirement may change. They won't change 360-degree, but there is a chance some changes can happen. So why should I spend time which is not worth it? Rather, I spend time in the place where it is needed, right? And this is the reason we do progressive elaboration and we do iteration planning or sprint planning as you get closer to the deliverable timeline. Okay, saying that, let me show some more factors which will be good. Sorry. If you watch out this, there is something called agile planning and levels of planning. This is explained in different dimensions at a high level. Let me try to tell some more factors for you. Any project, agile or non-agile, definitely there will be a vision. From where this vision comes from, there is something called organization-based strategy. Every organization can be AT&T, it could be iPhone or Apple, Google, Microsoft, Tesla, you name any company whom you know, they will have a strategy. What is a strategy? Strategy is a high level view, high level goal, high level thought process, what need to be achieved, which makes a company to move from current state to the future state. Now, Google want to get into cloud as a full player. They will have some strategy how to catch up the Google. Now you can see US is working out on taking out TikTok, right? It's a strategy. They want to capture through Microsoft, take over TikTok, where TikTok can have a millions of customer base. They're not very interested on TikTok, they're interested on the data. If the data goes to US can become more powerful than they are now. It's a strategy. It's a strategy of the country. Microsoft may have a different strategy because they're already down in the market. They can expand the market a little more bigger in other countries like New Zealand, Australia, UK, and India. How they do that? It could be a strategy, how to catch it up. Let's not get to that level. Let's go to the level of implementation because this strategy can have a lot of things. It could be of a money, it could be of a politics, it could be of a pressure in the market, it could be of a legal actions, it could be of goodwill. A lot of factors are there. That's a strategy. Now the strategy becomes a vision. Of course, vision is something, what actually we want to achieve out of that. Now this all happens at the portfolio level, or the highest level, right? And later it becomes a level where we talk about product roadmap. In the roadmap, we talk about why we want this and some of the key factors like themes, features, some of the epics, some of the timeline, milestones, what do you like to achieve? If you have a vision, this roadmap will give an idea how we will achieve this vision in a systematic way. Who can do this? A product manager can do this. Yeah, a sponsor can be there. The key folks who understand the business will be there. Some of the technical folks also will be there, right? That happens as a product roadmap. Only for the product roadmap, we will go to the release planning. When you see release planning, it talks a little more factor. Some more technical can be there. It talks about what is the capacity, what are the stories and sizes which you're going to assume, what are the priority of it, what is the DOD. It gives an idea of what and how we are going to achieve it. It talks about the model of how we are going to achieve it. It talks about what are the outcomes will be there, when we can expect it, right? How your team is going to do that. What is the release timelines? And these all comes inside the release planning. Now, if you see that, we start subdividing the work. You have a strategy, or you call it as a goal, and that becomes a vision. A vision statement comes out. Vision statement will be mostly achieving something from the current state of the organization to the future state. Now, Tesla says that we want to do something for the space. We want to do something, a new model of car, which can go in such a speed in a battery, in a solar system. That's a vision. From a current state, they're looking at the future state from 6 months from now, 8 months from now. Now, how do you achieve it in a way that's going to be a roadmap? You drive that roadmap. Now, it becomes implementable form as you go to release plan, and then comes your iteration planning, which you do for 2 to 4 weeks, or you do a daily plan, or daily meetup, daily stand-up. Now, in Agile, as I say, planning, a few minutes back I spoke about, we do frequent planning. We may not do one-time plan and get away. No, we do frequent. Why? Because there could be changes coming up. So now you can question me. So you mean, Shriram, that vision will change, strategy will change? Maybe slightly, but not heavily. Whereas the parameters of implementation, the parameters of market demand and expectations can fluctuate. For that reason, even though the vision and strategy is going to be the same, the way you achieve could change because we have to go quick to the market. Some of the parameters to be adjusted because the market is expecting something different. And that talks about agile planning. On your right, you can see product roadmap, what all it will have. You can see the word goals. Goals are there, initiatives, master features, major user stories. What is the timeline? This all comes up there. If you go to the release planning, you will have again features coming up, milestones, date, status, and some of the key factors which need to be achieved. Now, this all makes a planning as a regular flow in Agile project, which makes them sensible. Now, if I want to put a point, who will do this? Primarily, it is done by the product manager and product owners because they are the one who know the business. We do have technical people there to give suggestions and inputs, expert thoughts, but the primary responsibility goes to these people who know the business. And we call them as a business owners. If you learn from Scaled Agile framework, we call as epic owners. We have a business owners who take the responsibility, who knows what is needed in the business, right? So that's on the high level of onion. They call it as a onion, which talks about some of the key features. I know some of you will be already using it. If you're not using it, at least you have come across these terms called release planning, roadmap, iteration planning. These all the words may be new, the concepts are pretty old. That is something you have a big view and you scale down into smaller sizes to understand what my team will do next 2 weeks. Even though your strategy is huge, vision is huge, but you should know what your team will do for the current timeline. And that happens in each planning segment here, right? That's good. Good. Let's say a little more. Okay, this comes from a book of ACP, PMI ACP, iteration planning. This is a 2 weeks or 4 weeks of timeline, what the team is going to do. I was showing in the board, there is a customer who is looking out for an output, and we're going to deliver in a small pieces. The small pieces can be 2 weeks or 4 weeks of timeline where the deliverable starts coming out. Now, how do you do that? Before even you do that, there is something called product backlog. Product backlog is a place where you collect the list of items to be delivered to the customer. You can name it, user stories, features, whatever you want to name it, but it's nothing but a small chunk of business value which we want to give to the customer, and the customer is also interested on that. Now, how do you know that? They're interested on that. The customer sets a priority. You have a priority. Customer says, I want this first, I want that second. They tell that. Now we go to hotel and we order some food. We say, yeah, we want soup as a beginner. And then we have a starter, then I want this course. We tell an order, right? Even though the person who's going to make it, they know each will take how much of time, but you decide what you want first, right? In that order only you get the service because you decided, you are the sponsor, you are the one going to pay the bill. Where even though there will be some time difference between each item, still the customer decides what they want in the market. Customer does not suddenly dream and decide. Customer take a look of the market condition. The market condition says these items should be first. For example, most of the finance segments in US or other country working out on the COVID related functionalities. Why? Government is releasing a lot of fund to handle people on healthcare area or support them for life. Now these are the fund flow through the banks, flow through the finance segments. Government means doesn't like that they'll throw the money from the White House or the Parliament. It should flow through some system. And these are the system already have some softwares for which the developments are running on. Now, the moment government announce something, they will stop their regular work and they go back to anything which is immediately to be implemented. The priority level changes. Recently, or a year before, or sometime back, government announced GST, the system. Now, every company halted their regular work and took this GST, start implementing with the highest priority. So the priority could be decided by the market or could be decided by the customer on themselves, understanding I want this should go to market early. I can predict this will win business for us. So they will do that. Airtel may have a lot of work to do, but Airtel said we are launching blue jeans as software. How many of them using? Not sure, very less. But they are in the market. Now that's their highest priority. In blue jeans, there'll be a lot of priority item which has to go to the market as early as possible. Right. So I'm coming back, you have a backlog, and the backlog has a list of items to be delivered, and we order it as per the priority. As you know the priority, it is going to be easy to deliver. And the team also plays a vital role in deciding how much it will take to complete it. We use something called relative sizing to size the user story. Maybe one other time, other session, to talk about how the sizing works. But for now, understand that sizing is used to estimate how long it will take to complete. Are we going to estimate by hours? No. Here we do estimation by relative sizing of Fibonacci series. We'll go for 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. We have some numbers. What is the number definition? Team decides. If they say 3 days or 3 points can be 5 days. 3 points can be even 2 days. They decide what they want to do. So beauty here in Agile team is planning happens frequently and team gets all the opportunity to decide what they want to do. There were days managers decide how the release will happen, when it will go, who will do it, what is the priority. Why? Because manager was holding the domain expertise with them. There were days. Now it has gone to the level of customer where they come with the domain experience. We have to just support them to implement. So we have some role called a PO, the product owner, who sits with us. They know much of the stuff what need to be done. I feel sometimes that makes our job also easy. You don't find project manager play a big role, right? Right. And if some of you worked in sprint or scrum model, I'm sure you would have seen the screen what I'm showing here. Now, how a sprint works in a Scrum. Scrum is one of the methodology under Agile. You have a product backlog. I was talking about list of items customer expecting. So this is a customer proxy. This guy, he or she is a customer proxy. You will have a list of items to be delivered. And team picks up what item they can deliver in a sprint backlog. Once they design, they go on a 2 weeks to or 4 weeks of time. Let's take 2 weeks. 2 weeks goes by 10 days. In 10 days, the item, whatever they picked, they will start doing on a daily basis. And every day they meet up for a stand-up. I'm sure many of you heard about what a stand-up, where they meet to talk about how things are moving. It's a friendly way. You understand what's happening there, right? And we do everything good, deliverable starts coming out. And there are some more ceremonies like you do product backlog refinement regularly. What is backlog refinement? You go back and see, is this backlog items are properly defined? Do we need to talk it again? Do we need to estimate it again? Do we need to add acceptance criteria? Do we need to see any dependencies? These all keep happening continuously. So now you will question me how this is happening in traditional model. In traditional model, this is all happening at the beginning stage of the project, where they work out for nearly weeks and months to understand what all dependency can be there, what all blockers can be there, what all risk can be there, what all financial and other factors could be addressed. For example, a metro train construction happening in Mumbai or Bangalore, planning starts 5 years, 6 years back. 6 years, maybe I'm telling less number, could be more than that. They plan a lot, land acquisition, getting blueprint, getting all the approval from environmental department from anybody, and start the work. You have to give us a tender. Government cannot do the metro construction. Government can only finance it, give an idea. Who will do it? Companies like L&T has to do. L&T is not the only person. So you have to open the bidding, contracting. Somebody has to come and bid you. When a company has to come and bid you, what do you have to do? Your requirement should be clear. If your requirement is not clear, how do you bid? Lot factors are there. So this is all done in that model of project. But here we talk about software engineering or a knowledge-based project where we don't go with the requirement frozen mode. Rather, we keep the requirement open, where people can change anytime. People can give inputs. People can be fluctuating because it's possible. In a metro train construction, you cannot change the route after 2 years of development. I'm trying a 3 kilometer stretch. Suddenly I'm telling that no, don't take a right turn, take a left turn. It won't work. In software, it will work. I can say version 1.2. Within 1 week, I'll release version 1.3. I have made a lot of changes. Nobody knows it. So certain things are possible and certain things are mindset, which makes Agile more successful. And planning happens frequently. And frequently does not tire you because you're going to plan every time with the new items. Don't think that the same old item we keep planning again and again. It is something new items keep coming up in the market. We keep planning it. So when you look at from the perspective of the customer and from the organization, definitely every project has a strategy, has a vision, has a goal, has a release plan, and then finally it comes to the iteration. Up to that level, all the project looks same. It could be traditional or a current agile model, all look same at the high level. Only when it comes to the implementation level, it will differ in a way. We do frequent planning for adaptive nature projects. We do long-term planning for predictive nature projects, right? So that's how it works. Okay, hope that gave some idea. Just thought of putting something on Scrum process. I know Scrum is not the only thing in Agile. When you read the PMI ACP books, Scrum is one of the methodologies covered there. But just to give a clue for what all happens in Scrum. In Scrum or in Agile under Scrum, if you see there, product owner is one of the role where the customer representative be there. And there is something called development team. A team size can be of 3 to 9 people, could be of a cross-functional team. They work together. And you have a person called servant leader, or you call as a scrum master. So ideally, a team size can be 11 people at the max. No rules here. You can be 13, 14 people also. A decent number, 7 or 11 people is a good number. Now this team will look at the product backlog. Backlog is nothing but a collection of work to be completed. Lot of items are there, rack of items. I will not pick up all the item. I will choose which item is good to do for this sprint. Shriram, who will decide this? Customer decides. Customer tells, hey, you know what? I want the login screen and a credit card screen functionality for this week. Because this week we want to check how the payment gateway works. In order to check payment gateway, I want the credit card screen where you say Visa, MasterCard, give your 16-digit number, give your 3-digit number, then the authentication starts. Authentication is done by different team. I want your team to complete the screen alone, which will take all the input of the credit card. Can you do that? No, 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 Mr. Product Owner, I don't want to do this. I have some other functionality where I want to do the live bot chat. Shall we release that? Customer says, sounds good, but not now. Because we want our production this week should go with the payment gateway. Chatbot can go for next release. Now the customer has an upper hand because the customer knows what market is demanding. This was a big clash years back where the project manager decides what has to go. Even though some projects are deciding it, I'm not saying no, but primarily PO plays a role, right? So now PO gives a flag, green flag, what all item they want. Now the team pick up and start doing what they do. They do 2 to 4 weeks of time. As I explained the previous slide, they're going to talk in a 2 weeks timeline or 4 weeks timeline and start giving deliverables. When the deliverable comes out, we do something called DOD. We check out, is it meeting definition of done? Is it a code completed? Unit test completed? Code check-in completed? Code cleanup done? And proper deployment happened? And testing has been completed. When all done, we call as a story is completed. It's called DOD, definition of done. Should be written by whom? Along with the team, the customer sit and write, there is a DOD. It's an agreement with both the parties. Now this happens in agile projects. I'm not talking only Scrum here. I'm talking about agile projects, it happens. But Scrum is more acceptable because of the way it was implemented. It's very smooth and easy comparatively with other methods, right? Okay, that's pretty good on our side. I know I was trying to touch few factors on agile. Okay, great. Yeah, you got some points, I believe. So what have we touched today? We spoke about agile and non-agile planning. I was giving some idea about how the guided missile model works, where we keep moving, where at the same time planning we will not do as a whole. We'll do as a small chunk of plan and keep moving forward. Based on the market condition, we keep adapting. Primarily, I want you to understand this screen really well. There is something called product vision. Even before that, you have a strategy. Strategy, product vision, product roadmap, release planning, iteration planning, and daily planning. Daily planning is nothing but you go and meet with your team and see what's happening. It's also called as planning, but actually we'll talk what happened yesterday, what I'm going to do today, and is there any blockers. It's a general thing we do and we call it as a stand-up, which should happen for 15 minutes. Yeah, that's how we do. Right, let me listen some of your dialogues also. Do we have anybody here who primarily work on agile projects? You work day and night on agile? Anybody here? Okay, any questions on the agile planning, if I can help you? I have Arjun, Bharati, Guri, Krishna, Kulbhushan. Hey Kulbhushan, good to see you. What's happening? How things are going on your studies? Okay, anybody here talks about agile? You are working on agile project? You can use a chat window if you have any questions. Mostly waterfall. Ah, okay. So Giri, does it help you to get little idea how the planning works in agile? You got some clue? Okay. Okay. Yep. Giri says, no, I'm not into IT. But what happened is things are moving in this direction. It's not only IT getting into Agile now. If you watch out, the PMP examination is taking major portion from Agile and they start adding up in the books. If you go from 2021, January to PMP exam is going to have a lot of Agile questions. The thought behind this is we may not 100% follow Agile in all the model of project, right? It could be of a different model. We won't do it fully, but there could be Agile thought process. When I say thought process, it could be something on a people relationship. It could be of making the plan flexible. It could be of reaching the market as early. In some of the projects, they are trying this model. I will not tell it's 100% successful because there are a lot of obstacles in a way you want to deliver faster. So in IT, technology supports you to go to faster to the market. Not all industry does it. If construction has to complete, it has a 3 days of a dry time. The floor has to take 3 days to dry. It will. You can't speed up. Whereas in IT, we have automation where you can speed up 3 hours of work to 4 to 5 minutes. We can do that. We call as a DevOps. Instead of 3 hours, it will happen in 4 minutes. But a floor has to dry, that's a time. It's called mandatory dependency. You can't do anything there. Now, considering these factors, early to market is a question mark in certain places. But still, in Agile, there are a lot of mindset, how flexible you can be, how collaborative you can be. So these are the points which we are trying to adopt. Anyway, there's a good thought here. Thanks, Giri, for that. Is there any other points from the team here for the day, for the Agile? Have you got some inputs out of this course? Okay, there is a question from Bharati. What is the difference between Agile and discipline Agile? Fine. See, Agile is a concept from 2001 which talks about how team can collaborate well and bring results faster and also involve the customer in our development or working process. Ideally, give value frequently. This is Agile's mindset. Now, this was good in 2001. It worked well. 2010 worked well. 2013, 14, still it worked well. Now, what happened is, after some time, the team started enlarging. Even before that, it was started happening. But when you have more number of teams, see, Agile or Scrum team, they tell that 3 to 9 people, hardly 11 people. But a big project will not have only 11 people. A big project will have multiple teams together, teams of teams. When teams of teams come together, what happens is you start to scale it. When I say scale it, when there are 50 or 100 people, you want to put them in the same agile mindset, but still you want to get the deliverable on time with the quicker results to the market. You need a framework, you need a process in place. So there comes disciplined agile. So disciplined agile or less or scaled agile framework, these all are the same line. What they talk here, how can we scale the agile concepts at the higher level? When you do that at a higher level, it's going to help at a big system or big implementation. Hope that helps you, Bharati. I know PMI is doing a full-time advertisement of Disciplined Agile as they are acquired Disciplined Agile sometime back. Disciplined Agile is actually a person who did it, and PMI has a great competition with SAFE, great competition with the less. So they acquired a Disciplined Agile. Now they're making full-time advertisement. It may pick up, but we have to say wait and watch because SAFE already captured the big piece of market. So now they're trying to fight and get it. It's all about competition. Okay. Which certification will you suggest among ACP or DAD? Okay. If your organization is working at the big size of projects, which has a lot of agile teams, and it has an opportunity to work with 50 to 125 people or 200 people in the same project with the same vision and goal, then DAD or SAFE or less is a good model. But still, more than that, SAFe is going really well in the market now. That is picking up, long way to go, because SAFe has a framework. People can just follow it. It has its own plus and minus. But when it comes to DAD or ACP, if you are looking as an agile coach, if you are looking as an agile leader to handle few teams with you, but you have to bring out the agile thought process, like talking about Scrum, Kanban, lean model. If you do in that dimension, ACP is a decent certification, right? Because that is kind of different principles and it is for some big size. But for the agile coach, agile leadership, agile lead, ACP is a good deal, right? Okay, that's great. Bharat is putting another question. Agile certified coach and PMI ACP are same. Maybe the content can be closer to each other because in Agile, there's not much content, to be honest. If anybody coming from the big background of like a PMP or MBA, you will feel Agile certification, both looks almost same content, but ACP will cover few methodologies, like it will talk about Scrum, Kanban, XP, Lean. So it has a big cycle. So ACP always try to be bigger because it's from PMI. Yeah, talking about story map, Vinay, let me understand a little more where you're using a story map. Um, I'll let me understand something more so that I can help you better. So where you're using your story map. Okay, Bharti, hope you answers your question. Agile certified coach, it is pronouncing as it's another entity who hosts this certification. ACP is hosted by PMI, Project Management Institute. So they have two different entities who is hosting it. Subject-wise, ACP is a little bigger as they cover more, right? Great. Vinay, ACP preparation saw the topic. Okay, okay. See, story. What? Okay, before I give that, first one understand. It's a topic somewhere in between. So what you connect with that, where you read it, and what you understood from that. If not, it's a middle of something. Suddenly, one word will not help you to understand. You have something called product roadmap. You have story mapping. You have release planning. You have iteration planning. So what's the context you read on that? Okay, roadmap. So now we understood something roadmap, right? So now roadmap talks about the implementation plan from start to end. It's going to talk about milestones. A vision, to attain the vision, you have a roadmap. A roadmap talks about the milestones to be achieved. This could be of a features, epics. And definitely it will have some sub layers. The layers going to be of further sub features or stories going to be happen there. There will be some mapping between the stories and the milestones and what is the flow of achieving it. It will have a high priority, mid and low priority stories, which has to go to the market. And it also has a mapping between what is the start point, what is the end point. It's a journey, right? It's a story map which talks about the journey of what's going to be achieved. Hope it helps you. And which book you're referring to, Vinay, when you say you read the ACP? Mike Griffith, well, good, well, good. So good, start reading it and good to see that. Okay, Velayudham is putting a question. This is Sundar. Okay, the name says Velayudham. Can you please tell us what is the difference between Scrum and Kanban? How are we selecting the method Kanban or Scrum for a project? Okay, I believe this question goes directly to the methodology. Scrum is there from 1983 or 1993, where Sutherland came with an idea. Scrum will try to do on weekly iterations, 4 weeks iteration, where the team takes a task responsibility within the time and cost, deliver it. A time and costs are frozen, 2 weeks of time, 4 weeks of time, 8 members of people. Now the work to be done is being decided by the PO, the product owner. They tell that, hey, this is what the work we want. And team pulls the item, put it into the system, and they do it and deliver it on a rotation basis or in a iteration basis. Kanban is also same in a way, team will pull the item, but in Kanban, we have a workflow, or we call it as work in process limit, WIP. In Kanban board, we have something called WIP. So the team will decide at a time, the team will do 3 items in this queue. Only when this is completed, we will pull the next item, right? So now on the need basis, it called as a pull mode. In Kanban is called as a pull methodology. Usually in projects, functional projects, they do Scrum methodology because functionality keep coming up. Product owner decides what has to go to the market, and based on that, Scrum rollover. Kanban is used mostly on a ticketing system where tickets keep coming up. Only the person completes one ticket can pick up the next ticket. They pick up and start doing it. It's something like a cashier queue in a bank or a toll gate line. Only when one car is completed, next car can be picked up, right? So you cannot parallel do certain activities. They have a limit to do the process. So Kanban mostly goes for ticketing system. Sometimes project also they do it. Now the companies are doing something like Scrumban. They mix both the Kanban and Scrum principles, and they do it. Scrumban is happening. So that hope that helps you. Okay. Fantastic. Thanks for the good questions. By the way, Vinay and Sundar, did you got your points? Okay, great. Great. Did I miss anybody? Okay, great. Okay, thanks for the questions. It is good sharing some knowledge with you. Today, what we spoke over here is we spoke about the basics of Agile planning. Ideally, you have to get an idea. In Agile, we don't make upfront planning. Sorry, in Agile, we make upfront planning, but at a smaller scale, and then we start moving forward. In Agile, we make a high level of release planning can be there, but still on the iteration based or on every release based, we start evaluating and planning more and more. That's how it moves on. Whereas in predictive nature, we make most of the plan in the beginning. That's not a wrong, but still that's a model of the project. In IT or knowledge-based project, they cannot do that, so they do it on a continuous basis. So for which there are certain methods followed. Kanban can have a different method, whereas XP follows a different method. Scrum follows a different method. Crystal follows a different method. But ideally, 58% of the market uses Scrum. So we know that every Scrum we have, every sprint we have a sprint planning. In sprint planning, we decide what to be done, how to be done. That's how it happens. Anyway, thanks for joining this session. I was able to give some idea about Agile concepts. We'll try connecting another discussion where we'll talk about estimation techniques, how they do poker card, how they use a Fibonacci series, how they use a t-shirt sizing. We will do that in another session. Thanks all for joining. Have a great time and I appreciate your time. Thank you.